Hello and welcome to Janette's TV and Janette's TV podcast. I'm your host, Janette Burke. Today, I am joined by Ginger Reiter, Sheba Mason, who I'm actually rejoined by, and Wehrle. They are all part of the Jackie Mason musical, which is coming to Toronto April 13th and 14th, and they're going to tell you all about it. So let's get going, guys. Welcome to Janette's TV and podcast.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so my first question is, what made you bring this play out now? And how does it showcase, Jackie Mason's life, but also your lives? Particularly you. I'll give that question to Ginger. Let's hear it from you first.
Okay, well,
and then we'll go to Sheba.
Okay, during Jackie's life, this play was a living thing. It just kept changing. It was written before Sheba was born, and then it changed after she was born, and then it changed after she became in high school and she could play me, and then it changed through the years after the paternity suit, which was when she was a baby, and then it kept changing until the day he died. When the day he died, which is 2 years ago, now going on 3, it had a final chapter. And that's, so it's not like it's the only thing I've ever done, but it's one of my plays, and, it changed through the years.
Okay, so was he aware of this play?
In the beginning, before Sheba was born, he booked it for me. He got it booked at the Newport Hotel in Miami Beach. He loved it, absolutely loved it, until there was a child and a paternity suit. Then he started not to like it so much. And her birthday, her first birthday, is when he opened on Broadway for the first time in his life. She was 1 year old on that day. And so then he was crazy about booking it.
I see. Okay, we'll get back to that. Now I'm going to let Sheba jump in and, tell me some things that you want people to know about your father, like things to know before they come to the show and things they should take home from the show.
Well,
what do you want them to know?
It showcases that he was like a really brilliant comedian, and at the end we even show him performing in a giant theater with everybody laughing. We pick a really cute guy to play the part so that the character is likable, So it's like, you could understand what she saw in him, and then he wasn't just like, a stocky Jewish man. And so you want people to know that, like, it's kind of a love story like any other love story, really. And it's kind of unrequited love.
But what specifically do you want them to know about your father coming into the show and leaving the show?
Well, I want them to know that what
you want to know is that he existed, number one. I think we're coming into a generation where his legacy is not as maybe well recognized, that the establishment that he had on the media and comedy world empire is, we want to reintroduce him to potentially new generations. We want to reinvigorate his persona, his legacy, and keep that alive, and make sure that is something that's that there is an awareness of it, but also that it's that his what am I trying to say here? That is his
stature.
Emblem. Sorry?
Stature in the comedy world, maybe?
Yeah, his stature. But that his material is still enjoyed. That's the point.
Yeah, that's good. Like that his material is still, that we're keeping him alive.
So Ian, this one. So you're memorializing him and his comedy, and the contributions he brought to the world as a comic. Is that correct? Is that a fair statement?
Yes, memorializing is a really perfect way.
Okay. So, Ian, I'm going to ask you one specific. I'm going to kind of go around with all of you guys. And then I've got some general questions that you can each answer. Ian, you portray Jackie in the musical. And my question to you is, how were you able to master his characteristics? Did you do a lot of research? Did you watch, former, like, let's say, YouTube videos of his performances or him being interviewed on different talk shows to master his characteristics? And really, what did you do to prepare to play this role? And how do you feel that you pay tribute to him in doing so?
Well, the stock answer I like to give, and I'll go into a more realistic one, is that as a tri-state area, a Jew growing up in the '80s, his persona and his influence on the culture was impossible to ignore. And if you had any access to that world, then you saw his influence everywhere. And the richness of the humor that he allowed people to engage in because of his groundbreaking comedy style and what he was willing to say, and how many people he was, in the era, in the community, he was kind of the bad boy of the Orthodox Jewish world. So now I grew up again as a tri-state area, New York tri-state area Jewish lad, and you would hear people telling his jokes, you would hear people referencing him. You would hear people trying to talk like him, and so as a kid, it just seemed really funny and something people really appreciated. So I was always a fan, and I grew up with his shtick, and just practiced it as an aspect of my own social milieu, if you will. So when I realized at 27 or what, when I wanted to go into acting, that these folks were putting on a show about that, I said, I know that guy. I can do that gimmick, and they seem to have thought the same in the audition. And then getting to know Sheba, and then getting to know Ginger helped all of that tremendously as well. Within the first year, I think, of doing the show, I ran into him, Jackie, at a diner, and had my own interaction. So I was able to even engage.
Oh, you did? So you actually met him?
Yeah.
Was it a pleasant interaction?
So he knew you were portraying him?
I told him as much. I told him that I knew his daughter.
Was he aware that you were portraying?
I mentioned it to him. It was a brief encounter, but he seemed appreciative.
He did.
Okay, so now my next question, you can all jump in and answer, and this is the question. When you are writing a play of this nature, and you're bringing in all these characters, how did you get the characters to really not just portray their parts, but really tell the story, of what happened, and so that the musical would really, share your family story? So how do you make that work on stage with those characters?
That's a good question.
And how did you choose them?
Okay, that's a really good question. What did I do with Jackie? This heavy romance that went on with 10 years. What did it consist of? Well, we went to the early bird special at the Rascal House. That's what we did. So what do we see at the early bird special at the Rascal House? You see the same waitresses all the time, and they got their own personalities. He hung around with a guy named Schleppalong. His name was Wooly, and I call him Schleppalong because he was always there. And so I'll let Ian helps direct the show. So I'll let him talk about how he pulls out the characters' personalities.
Well, I think very similar to if you watch
and to tell the stories.
Right.
If you watch a Seinfeld episode, you realize very quickly that the comedy industry and the folks that end up being around funny people are funny people themselves. And Ginger has mashed up several funny people that I think she ran into throughout her engagements with Jackie, and these people, as portrayed, are kind of comic marks that help show that Jackie had a what do you call that when you have a group of people? Entourage. That he had this very specific entourage of people that loved him and hated him and created his own little social network to assist in I guess, his career at that time. Ginger, you were portraying him kind of when he was just before his skyrocket, right?
Right, just before his skyrocket and leading up to it the first year. And another character in the play that's very important is the woman who plays my mother, because my mother kind of architected the whole romance. She told me what to wear, how to act, what to say, what to do. Never to be, like all the other women, because he had so many women in his life. And she kind of like was the pusher, because I didn't even know who he was when I met him at the Rascal House. And I was like over 20 years younger than him. And my mother kind of like knew him, Jackie Mason, and he asked, so were you in Miami a long time? And my mother said, we just moved here 3 days ago, Jackie. I love your act, and I've always been a great fan of yours. Whatever question he asked, the answer came out of her mouth, not mine, in the beginning, until I fell.
So how did you feel about that, Ginger? Did you feel that your mother was pushing you to be with a star, or did you really just like him, the person?
Well, it wasn't just any star. It was a brilliant, really funny guy who kept you in stitches constantly. And she really always adored him, but I really feel like part of it now, and that she's passed away and he's passed away, she did like the whole celebrity thing a little bit, that he was a celebrity, I think. But it ultimately was really about him. And I told myself I would have loved him if he would have stayed a rabbi, because he had been a rabbi when he was younger. I would have loved him anyway.
I know he had been rabbi. And he was. So since you brought that up, I want to just ask you a couple questions. We'll go back to Sheba and Ian. Since he was a rabbi and he actually came from an Orthodox family, did that upset you in any way that he wasn't, that the relationship sort of went on for 10 years and did not result in a marriage, especially after he found out that you were pregnant with Sheba? Did it bother you? Did you think that he should have stepped up differently?
Well, to be honest with you, when I found out I was pregnant, I assumed that he would step up, or that his family would. I mean, I knew all his brothers, they were all rabbis. And I was a little shocked that one day, like shortly after he opened on Broadway, I got a phone call from his rabbinical brother, Bernie, that, the child is the most important thing, more than the man. And that he would call me whenever, that I could call him, ask him for anything I needed, and the phone would be open. But that's not the case, because when I called and asked for the rent that I needed help with, this woman in his life would answer the phone, who turned out to be his manager and a pretend wife in the future. I don't really put that in the play because, there's bitterness involved, and I don't really like to propagate bitterness. I portray him as a brilliant man that's really easy to fall in love with. But, I was shocked that with all the orthodoxy that I'd have to sue him for paternity, that he wouldn't just step up to the plate and say, well, this is the way it'll be, and take part in her life. He did love the baby. I mean, he saw her up until she was a year old, till he opened on Broadway. He came to visit, and even he said, in our other babies look retarded compared to our baby. That's what he would say. And I know that's not woke or anything, but that's what he would say.
And Sheba, you and I have had an interview before, so I want to make sure that I don't re-ask a question that I had already asked you in our previous interview. But my question to you is, when you're playing in this play, you play your mother in the play. I guess your mother plays your grandmother, and when you go through all this and you hear all the story, not just the story about, your personal family history and your birth and all this, does it evoke, what kind of emotions does it evoke in you? Like, do you feel sometimes that the play just, brings up a lot of history you'd rather forget? Or do you feel that it it adds to you because you happen to be the love child or byproduct of two very talented people, and now you yourself are a very talented comedian?
Well,
So what does it do for you?
I can tell you that psychologists have a field day with the show, because I'm playing my mother. I get pregnant with myself. And
Mm.
it's a really kind of a phenomenal, it's a phenomenon, really. I mean, I don't even know if anywhere ever in the world has anyone played their mother getting pregnant with themselves. I don't know. But it's fun, you know, it's really
Mm.
it's just it's why can't I always stutter. It basically like it does, you know, I do delve really deeply into wow, like this was a point in time, a moment in time these people lived in this way, and you know, I should be like really really special considering how unique the situation was and how um it was so unlikely that I would even be born because you know they saw each other like not every single day kind of thing, you know. And so I should
Mm.
feel really really special from you know doing this play. Really. I should.
Uh-huh. And uh, so some people might say, and I'm not asking you this to be like off-putting, but it's just, I think, a fair question. Some people might say that you've chosen to produce a musical about your father and the ups and downs of his career, because there's definitely all of that, including, you know, the Ed Sullivan finger incident and everything. But you're also using this play as a way to really talk about what happened. And some people might say, and this is what I want your take on, and you can all jump in, that you're capitalizing on your mother and father's 10-year relationship that resulted in the birth of you to create this show. And you know that there might be that sort of side to it, that it's a maybe capitalizing because you didn't get what you should have got from your father. Is there any truth to that? Do you have anything to say to that particular perspective?
Yeah, I was going to say sure. Yes. We are definitely
Go
capitalizing.
ahead.
Yeah, we're definitely capitalizing on his name and his legacy, sure. I have friends who are the daughters of like for example, I have a friend who's the daughter of Don Rickles. She's never even ridden on a subway before. So if he didn't leave me anything in his will or help me
I
out
know.
in any way, damn right I'm going to use
That's
his
what
name.
I'm looking for. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, damn right I'm going to use his name and
Right.
capitalize on it.
So, I mean, I definitely think it's your birthright.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got
I
that.
definitely think it's your birthright. I know he didn't leave you anything in his will, but he left you some talent. That's what you inherited from your father, and obviously your mother
Yeah, well
too,
that
both, right?
that and a bag of chips and
Um,
on a bus.
exactly. So let's talk more about the play being in Toronto. Okay. So I just want to say that I did invite the host, that brought to you by Kol Tov Productions and Jewish Comedy Festival, to be a part of this interview today, Ronan Geyser. For some reason, I don't know whether he didn't get back to me, maybe he didn't get it, whatever. But let's talk a little bit about Toronto, and the play in Toronto. So it's only coming to Toronto for 2 nights, April 13th and 14th, 7 o'clock shows. And there's also a matinee at 2 o'clock. And I understand that tickets are around 75% sold out, but there is still a few good seats available. Don't wait too long to make your orders. Um, so so let's talk a little bit about that. How did it come to Toronto? How did you get it to come to Toronto? And you've performed before, Sheba. I saw you in Jewish Princesses at the JCC, the Jewish Community Center, Leah Poslun's Theater in Toronto, North York. What's it going to be like for you to go back?
Well, that was about a year ago. And if you remember, it was like completely sold out, mostly because I was capitalizing on the Jackie Mason name, Sheba Mason. And I figured, you know, I'm
Yeah.
friendly with Ronan.
Yes.
And it hit me. I said, you know, if I could sell tickets with my name and have it be so sold out, let's use this name and do the play here. You know, there's a big Jewish community there. We've never gone to Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought it was a really great idea. You know, so, you know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Can I just say that there's a woman in the show who plays my mother? I'm not in the show. And she's from Canada. She had a hit TV series. Her name is Cheryl Ray, and the hit TV series was The Rays. And it was for 2 years in Toronto on television. And people might remember her. She's all over
Okay.
YouTube. And it was her and her first husband. the Rays, Raes, and she is a dynamo in the show, as is Ian. Ian has studied the role of Jackie Mason beyond belief. He becomes Jackie. He becomes Jackie. He's amazing in the role. He wrote one of the.
He definitely has that look. You have a look of the young Jackie Mason. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he there's the song
ahead.
The Finger.
So
The Finger, where we talk about it, the Ed Sullivan incident.
Yeah.
Ian wrote that. He wrote that song, and it's a great song. And he's been very, very important to us in the show. Just so I know, just so you know that. So between Cheryl
and so speaking of the music. Speaking of the music in the show, let's talk a little bit about the music. I know that you also, Ginger, had written some of the music as well as the actual play. Let's talk about some of the music in the show. There's like 16 different original songs that really actually capture the entire story. Let's talk about how you created the songs, and the names are fantastic, like Ode to the Early Bird Special, I Never Meant This, Yenta. This is fabulous. How did it all come about?
Well, that's what I do. I don't really clean my house. I don't really, I mean, my house is, I have spider webs in my house that are like 40 years old. That's what I do. I sit at the piano, and it either comes to me like any other composer like Ian, it comes to you, or you sit there. It's just like any other composer. But, one of the songs is called Today, Tomorrow, or Next Year, which is a ballad. And it's about, my mother used to say, stop worrying. If he doesn't call you today, he'll call you tomorrow. If he doesn't call you tomorrow, he'll call you next year. Because he would come to Miami, where I was, and see me in the winter seasons, basically, in the beginning. And then when I was pregnant, he schlepped me around to the Catskill Mountains like 3 times. I went with him there.
And then there's a song called Celebrity Seekers, which is about, the way people are with celebrities, the way they're always on top of them and they want to, hangers on, right? So Celebrity Seekers. There's one that's called The Breeze is Sweeter in Miami, which is kind of like about no matter how bad your life is, it's still better because you're in Miami.
Right. I love Florida. So, it comes to you like.
Well, let me tell you, in Canadian cold winter, it is better in Miami. Okay, go on. Good.
So, so basically it took a while before I actually liked the story. In the beginning, when I wrote the show, my own relatives were walking out before Sheba was born. They didn't like it. But over the years, I realized how to write a story that keeps people interested. That they come, that they want to know what happens. So that's basically, it took a while, like any other good play. It takes a while before it becomes really good and you're happy with it. So, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I guess you have to like nurse it.
Right. There's a song called Anything You Say, Jackie, Anything You Say, where people just do, and he's a celebrity. They do his bidding all the time. That's towards the end where the bitterness comes out a teeny bit,
So let me just ask you this, and then I want to go back to Sheba and Ian before we close out. Okay. How much influence did you have in building up Jackie's career before he really became famous?
That's an interesting question. Well, he had been famous way before he met me, 12 years before he met me on the Ed Sullivan Show. He had he had 2 contracts and they were canceled after Ed Sullivan thought he gave him the finger, which he didn't, which is the song we have in the show. But I mean, I'd hang out with him and help him write jokes. I honestly feel that I didn't really have much to do with his career, except that he had, he could talk to me. He told his brothers I was like Moses. He says she's like Moses, because he thought I was smart. Because the reason he thought I was smart is because I kept my mouth shut all the time. But I can't honestly claim that I had a lot to do with his success, to be honest. I wish I could. I'd be
So is it true that his own father wound up not having, they weren't never speaking again because he chose to leave not being a rabbi and went to pursue this career as a comedian? Is that true?
His father was mad at him. He was
that his Jackie Mason's father cut him off, but the brother. Yeah.
Jackie's
But the
mother,
brothers did not.
the brothers did not, because, he's a generous guy. He's making tons of money and they loved him anyway. But Jackie's mother lived with him after his father died in a townhouse in New York. And his father was mad at him that he wasn't a rabbi the way he was supposed to be. But I think they ended up, it wasn't like, oh, gee, his father cut him off. He just was a little angry at him that he chose
I
that.
see.
But when he saw how successful he was, changed his mind. He didn't have a
Of course,
long
don't they
road.
always?
He didn't have a really
Okay,
long road.
so
There's like a delay.
okay, I want to give Ian a little more chance to talk, and then Sheba, and then we got to wrap it up. So Ian, you mentioned that you're a composer, you're obviously an actor. What other projects do you have going on, or do you just do this role as Jackie Mason in the musical?
I wish this could be my full-time role, and for a long time when we were off Broadway, it seemed like it. But in other endeavors in my life, I am a nationally touring theatrical sound designer, on the road with a couple pieces right now. And just opened up Sunday in the Park with George, down at the Axelrod Theater this week. But that's my main gig, and acting has just been a pursuit of happiness.
And Sheba, let's hear what you got going on. Last time we talked, you were doing, I think it's called the Three Monkeys Comedy Bar 3 times a week or something like that in New York. You were on tour like all over. I think you were headed to Texas the last time we talked. So where are you at now, and what have you got going on?
Yeah, well, I do run a comedy room that I started during the pandemic, and it's called Sheba's Speakeasy. It's upstairs at the Three Monkeys. That is a nightly show, even though I'm not physically there every night. I run it every night with a team of people. And then I do tour. Pretty soon I'm actually opening for Alex Stein. I don't know if you know who he is, but I'm going to be featuring for him pretty soon.
Sorry.
In Texas, actually. And I'm also...
Who'd you go to Columbus with?
Oh yeah, I was opening for T.J. Miller. I'm sometimes tour with him. If you know who he is, he's like a famous movie star. And Joe Mackey. And then I also headline myself, around. I tour.
Are you going to be doing any?
Okay, so we're gonna
Yes.
close off. There's 2 things I want to say before we close off. Number 1, if your father were alive today and you had a different relationship with him where you, let's say, were more in contact, and even you, Ginger, if you had kept in contact with him, I don't know if you did until he died, what is the one thing you would like to say to him and have him know about either your career or this play?
Wow, that's a really good question. No one's ever asked
And
me
you
that.
can all answer it.
Okay, well, I would say to him, knowing you was an education. It was a thrill. And I love my daughter very much. And I hope she's, I hope that you can find it in your heart to understand that your input in her life would be really, really enriching to her. That's what I would say.
And what do you guys have to say, Sheba and Ian? You can both answer this as well.
Well, I would say, I would say, God, I never thought about what I would say.
He's asking really good questions.
Yeah, you're asking a really good.
Like no one has ever asked.
This is like I need like a year of therapy to answer this
Thank you.
question.
I like to be good at my job.
What would you say?
Thank you. Thank you. But just
place
can I get a quick answer and then we'll wrap it up?
Quick answer.
What would you say?
Quick answer. What's your
I would say, I guess thank you for conceiving me. And, can you help me out writing jokes? Which is what I did say once when I met him, and then he ran away.
And what would you say, Ian?
Where, honestly, where is the best pastrami sandwich in Manhattan?
And I just want to sort of throw this in, and we're to close out. I'd mentioned that my father passed away 6.5 years ago. And, it's funny because he was a big business guy. And I still feel like, you were saying, help me write the jokes. I feel like I say sometimes to him, I don't know what to do with this business decision. I feel sometimes like he actually does come to me either in a dream or something like, so it is possible. Always ask for what you want and need. That's really what I wanted to say.
Oh, yeah, they
Now,
do.
we need to sell some tickets. We need to mention the show again. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to close out. The show is coming to Toronto, JCC Leah Poslun Theater, April 13th and 14th. There are 3 shows. April 13th has a matinee show at 2:00, of which there's a giveaway from Janette's TV podcast that you can read about, and you can qualify to win the 2 tickets. There's also a 7:00 show on that same day, April 13th. I'll be there. And there's another show on Sunday, April 14th at 7:00. Do yourself a favor. If you are a Jackie Mason fan, and even if you weren't, this is a great story, and, go see it. We are all living in a world right now, particularly as Jewish people, but even if you're not Jewish, because let's face it, non-Jews also love Jackie Mason. So it's not just restricted to Jews, but for Jews, I will say this: we are living in a very precarious time. We don't, we need a little laughter, a little spirit. This is a great show. Come and see it. It's easy to get the tickets. All the links to purchase and the dates will be shown in the show notes below. So, but I will get you to say the website now. If you could just tell me the website now to go order the tickets.
TheJackieMasonMusical.com.
Okay,
Jackie is
TheJackieMasonMusical.com. And
Jackie is
sorry?
Jackie is
Go ahead.
JACKIE. MasonMusical.com. There's a link.
Okay. So again, okay, we will put all the links. All the links will also be in the show notes. I want to thank you so much for taking your time to be with me again today, Sheba, and meet your mother, your lovely mother,
Thank you,
Ginger, and Ian. I think Ian's the perfect choice. And I want to thank my audience for joining in again today, too. This is Janette Burke, your host, signing off. Please remember to like, comment, and share all our posts with your family and friends. You will find us everywhere: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, Threads, Vimeo, YouTube, you name it, we're there. You can find the complete list in the link below. And until next time, continue to be fabulous.